Today I'm going to talk about a verse that I pretty much swore I would never talk about because it is one of the most overused verses, I think, in a lot of modern Christianity. And as someone who went to a Christian school, it is a verse that I have heard preached on way too many times and not very accurately. But I think we have finally found a situation where, believe it or not, this verse applies. And what verse is that, you may be wondering? None other than Jeremiah 29:11. Now, this verse, for many of you, might be something that you've seen on inspirational quotes. It's often used in a way to encourage those during dark times. Let me just read it for you right now. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Now, it's a very wonderful, very cute verse. And a lot of times I see people use it as a way to say, buck up, buddy. God has a plan for you, and to sort of blow off times of suffering. But what's really interesting about this verse is that it actually takes place during the Israelite exile into Babylon. So, in the midst of this verse, in the midst of what God is declaring, he's actually saying this to a bunch of people who've just been kicked out of their homes and they lost the promised land. If you know the story of the Israelites, what happens is they leave Egypt, yay, and then they start to doubt God, and then all of a sudden they have to wander the desert for 40 years, and that generation passes, and all of a sudden, ta-da, now we have a new generation, and they can enter the promised land, and they go on and on. Eventually they get it to a place where they want kings, and God says it's not going to go very well, and they say, we still want a king, so God appoints a king over them, and lo and behold, it does not go very well. And sure enough, the nation has fallen so far from the promised people that they were supposed to be that they have now been thrown into exile. And during that time, a lot of people were crying out to God and saying, I thought we were your chosen people. I thought that we were the ones who were supposed to be the conquerors. We were the ones who were supposed to be at the top of our game. So how could this happen to us? And that was kind of the attitude of the Israelites, was that they could do no wrong because they were God's people. But unfortunately, it got to a point where their nation was taken over by Babylon. And what happens here is this verse is happening in the midst of all of this. It's in the midst of all of this chaos, all of this uncertainty, all of these people who are saying, where are you, God? And he goes through this long list of things. He says, when you're in this land, marry, increase in number, be a part of it. Hope, pray that it prospers, even if you don't like Babylon, because if it prospers, so do you. And he says, I'm going to leave you in exile for this long, but don't worry, because I will bring you out of it. He says, for I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. But you see, those plans didn't really land for that generation. In fact, it would be a long time before they would be out of exile. And God's promise probably started to seem like a faint memory to a lot of them. But he says, I have plans for you. Because God's plan is so much bigger than what we see. And I think right now there's a lot of us who are saying, God, where are you in all of this? In all of this suffering, in all of this chaos that's around us, where are you? And it's really easy to use this verse and say, see, we'll all come through it, and if you're a good Christian and you pray hard enough, then you won't even get sick. But that's not what this verse is saying. This verse is saying, it might not seem like it now, but there will be an end. There will be an end to all of the chaos. Because I have plans for you. And those plans were fulfilled in none other than our Christ. In Jesus. Because he's coming again. He's coming again. Our future might seem a little bit uncertain right now. But at the end of the day, we know that God is King. And that is what is most important. I hope you all have a good day. God bless.